Right, well, the other day we had no sound, I had to overdub it. Before that I tripped over and broke the interlinking cable. This time I forgot to put a memory stick in the mixer. So I've already done this set. So here we have a Midland 77104 GTL, which is unusual because I don't see many of these. I think I've only seen one before, maybe I've seen two, and it is totally different. So you've got on-off volume, and then by pulling this knob it becomes mic gain, and here you've got squelch, and by pulling the knob you've got RF gain. It's got public address. It's one of those sets which annoyingly starts off on channel 9. Uses a standard 4-pin Cybernet wired mic. So the first thing we did, which we'll do again, was to plug in the PA speaker and go into PA.
Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2.
And it works on both volume and mic gain. You got a choice. So go to PA. The first thing I noticed when I opened it up was that this capacitor was in fact this capacitor. It has a slight bulge in the top, and then when I removed it, as I thought, it's got gunk coming out the bottom. So although it read somewhere near, the ESR was not how it should be, so I've replaced it. They're only like 45 pence. There's no, I'm not going to have an exploratory charge for that because it's so blatantly obvious that it was distressed. I think this radio is high hours. I don't think it's been over voltage. I just think it's gone up the hours. I don't know why the VCO has been touched. It's spot on all the 40 channels. So when I go into transmit, we've got picture in picture on. What we need is that meter. If we want to go into transmit, there's the 5-watt position on the 30-watt scale. Oh yeah, that's what it does. Like a lot of sets, you can't go into transmit with an extension speaker plugged in on your bench like this. In fact, I'll just trim that because it isn't quite 4 watts. It's now been on 3 hours. So transmit, 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 transmit. That's going to be done with the spectrum analyzer. It's going to be the second harmonic or the third harmonic. And then transmit power is here. Deviation is going to be that one. We've not got to deviation yet, but I will just show that. Wallow, it's showing 1.2. Well, it didn't initially, and as you know, my deviation meter on here isn't always right. It was 1.8 when we started, which is more feasible. You can see we started at 3 watts, we've gone to 4 watts. We started at 806 milliamps. Of course, we've got an amp. We're getting a watt more, so we're drawing more current. Not a lot more, but we are drawing more. Still under 1 amp. So you can use one of those FKI 1 amp CB power supplies, which I've always scoffed at for years. Not many CBs you can use the 1 amp power supply from FKI on. I did show one of those. I paid really good money for it off eBay, like 35 quid. They weren't even that new. And something we can fill in now, because it will be right, it will be frequency. Yeah, it is. So it was, when we started off, it was showing 2779,115, and as everything's warmed up, it's 2779,131. and that's where it's staying, because they drop naturally with time, and there's no point in adjusting it to down point. We'd normally set it to 128, so there's a little bit of point so it can drop. There's no point adjusting it, but of course the reference crystal, the trimmer for it, is just there for those people who needed to do that. It has a crystal filter in the receiver. This is a PR2794 set, so it's UK channels, like 2781, but a higher specification. And by that time we'd had a receiver specification come in, which is the thing our government overlooked first time round with 2781, which is why we got things like the great GT858, you know, like in the Fidelity 1000, because there was no receiver specification, and this time around there's a receiver specification, so they've got to achieve that. So that's basically all. There's no meter on this, so the set's coming working. I've brought it up a watt. The receive, it's absolutely coming brilliant, 0.25 microvolts, and all I've done is I've gone through it and I've got 0.24 at that end, and I've got 0.9 now instead of 0.82. Now that's because one of the IFs was slightly out, so you can end up with a set being more sensitive but actually not working right, and that's what's happening in this case. So squelch was a bit too tight, and it meant that at the threshold end it was also a bit too tight. And what you don't want is it chopping round scratchy corner. So we've now got that spot on 100 microvolts, and we've got a 1 microvolt sensitivity, which is what we want. So really, you know, it's a retune and test plus change that capacitor. I'm not saying I don't like the noise which this thing generates, so I'll just unplug the PA speaker and we'll put back in the instrument speaker. I said no, we don't need that. We'll put the PA speaker, which is mounted on the wall, into extension speaker like we do when we're doing the on the air test. So let's turn the squelch down. It's one of those that hisses. You know, if this was valved, I was thinking there was a dodgy valve in it. Let's just see. Let's put the signal generator on. There's always some noise there. And there's always, that noise is still there at low volume. You know what, I think because it's also there in PA, let's go back to PA. The amplifier is generating the noise. I wouldn't be surprised if we haven't got another Duff capacitor. And this is where I got to when I discovered I wasn't actually recording. I'm putting this screw in because this screw hole and another one haven't got the best threads, so I've put new screws in those two, so we've got a fighting chance actually holding it together. it's still there, just putting my finger on as an input. I'll kill the power off the power supply, and we'll just take that capacitor out as well. I think the one I've already changed is more to do with power input, and this could well be to do with the audio amplifier, but it just makes me wonder if it's got such hours on it that we're starting to have this kind of problem. When I can find the actual pins, it's got some warmth to that, and you know, it's not close enough to anything that gets hot. That I'm just going to get another piece of equipment. Right, what I was looking for, Mr. Chippy's got a remote probe thermometer, and I wanted to feel the body of this. I mean, it's cooled down now, but I would say that was 60 degrees. So it's a warm day. I haven't got the air conditioning on in here, and it's actually about 25 in here. I don't think this should be as high a temperature as this. So I've just swapped it. It's 470 at 10 volts. I've put 470 at 16 in. Now it's reading the right capacitance, but it's 0.16 the right ESR. Switch the set back on. Well, it's just as nasty and noisy. I think I'll see if I can pull up the circuit diagram for this set, if we've got one. Or shall we look for dry joints? So in doing that, I also decided to change this 33 microfarad capacitor, which says in circuit, so that's faulty. So we've now got a constant hiss instead of a coming and going crackly hiss. I still don't like the noise, but you know, unless you've got a pile of these to compare, I'm sure they're all the same. Yeah. But it now isn't making a crackle with its hiss, so. I think that's it. So the squelch, the preset for the squelch was there. So the radio's power was there. So we did the detector, which is there. Front end, a couple of IFs. I'm going to have a look at the circuit diagram as well, if I can find one. And then it just leaves us, which I'll tell you what, we'll do that now. Plug that in to the other test set behind me, which is about to get caught up in the lead for the soldering iron. I'll just make sure the deviation is about right, because I say the first reading I got this morning was 1.8. I didn't realise that test instrument wasn't on, so we'll have to come back in half an hour when that's stabilised, and we'll come up with the conclusion. Right, so half an hour later, let's just see what the deviation is. Well, it is a bit low. It's 1.8, just like the other one said, so my machine wasn't lying on this occasion. Wallow, wallow, wallow. That's better. Oh, that's that done. Right, I've just taken its photo. We'll do all that, and then we've got a diagram for where the different things are. I put out a questionnaire today. Well, it's got a question. Are we going to keep the Midland 78 Plus multi in the test car, or are we going to change it for the Thunderbolt 3000 and have that as the test radio? So you can answer what you think on that. And then perhaps next Saturday, in about 7 days' time, 6 days' time, we'll come to a decision. Okay, I've changed all the other capacitors in this area. I'll show you why, and we'll just run through if any of them are actually faulty or whether I'm just spending the customer's money. And that looks about right. That looks about right. That's faulty. That's about right. And finally, that's about right. So 2 of the 333 microfarad capacitors were faulty in this set. So that's another one I've changed. That's good. I'm just going to check the deviation is still right, because I've dealt with the audio section just in case it isn't. So pop it back onto channel 20. Just turn round and check with the other test instrument. That will turn that off. Plug the lead back into the normal test set. It's still sat there hissing. I don't like this hissing. It's just inherently noisy, you know, it's just something I don't like. You turn the volume down and you're left with it hissing, because of course if you use the squelch, that does disappear. I've just checked the squelch is still where I want it to be. Yep, spot on. Okay. So I'm satisfied that that's now as good as we're going to get it. So the customer sent a circuit diagram in of this, but it's not quite the right circuit. It's the same board. So I don't, oh, of course I've got that screw in there, so no wonder I can't get the thing on. So when we look at, I'll just move that over there. When we look at the circuit diagram he sent in, I can't see anywhere on that the RF gain or the mic gain control, which leads me to believe it's probably, is it the same as the 77095 or the 77099 or something else? I don't think it's the same as any of the 77104s. So then I've blown up this section. That doesn't mean with a bomber. We've got the 470 which I changed, we've got the 470 that I changed. One of those was the distressed one. There's the 33 that I changed and was faulty. I think the other 470s off the picture. We've changed the 2.2 on the input side, we've changed the 33 on the input side. So I've gone back a little bit further, I've gone forwards a little bit further from that. So, you know, we've done all that area, we've done all this area, and yes, it's an improvement, but I don't like it. Right, well, we're going to do an on-the-air test. So I'll just pop this back together and we'll plug it into our aerial. I'll just put a couple of screws in for now so it doesn't fall apart. you know, at the end of the day, I have to, you know, with all due respect to the customer, and you know, we all have, as you know, I have about 400 sets here. They're not because I collect CB radios. It's just part of the business model that we can compare a working set against a non-working set when there's no service information available. That was the whole business plan originally. Though we've stopped buying new sets, there's still one or two in our system that we haven't shown you yet. There'll be new old stock by the time I get around to it. We've had so many customer repairs, and with the big organ job on, which is still, I'm just wanting to make the final 3 stickers. They're pieces of wood. Final 3 for the pedal coupler system. And of course, the blade broke in the bandsaw, didn't it? Twang! So I've had to order another one. More expense, more downtime. Just pop that screw out and put that one in as well. Also, I knew which one were the dodgy screws. And then the existing screws, I'll just put them in at this side for now, just so we can get this video finished. If you don't want to watch me putting 8 screws in, it's bad enough watching me put 4 in. So I think it's a high hour set, and it's a, whether you like it or not, it's a cheap set. Let's hope this internal speaker's okay. It sounds like it is. So I don't bother about whether the sets have meters or not. That doesn't interest me, coming from a business radio background. But there we go. 1 Nana Roger. A Roger. Okay, we'll put that to Mega Chippy channel and put it on standby and shove the bench dog underneath it. Just like that. I've got my extension speaker already, turned the soldering iron off, turned the gear off, and we've done our alignment picture here. So the frequency adjust is there, power adjust is there, the deviation is there, the squelch preset is there, the receive detector's there, there's your receive adjustments, the front end and the IFs, and then you've got the TX ones here, and that's going to be the trap for the third harmonic or the second harmonic or whatever. I didn't put it on the spectrum analyzer, there's no need to do that, unless I thought that it's been twiddled. Well, nothing had been twiddled on this, it was pretty well spot on. I just got a watt more out of it, but as far as the receive goes, you know, it was about there. So there we have it, the Midland 77 at 104 GTL. Thanks for watching.